Hey, what's up, guys? Finally read this. Meant to read this for years. House on the Borderland. I remember I bought this at a used bookstore somewhere. I don't remember where. Maybe upstate New York or Pennsylvania. But this was. I mean, I had gone over some of the other Hodgson short stories. The Voice in the Night, a tropical horror, the derelict. Really, in terms of the horror, right? This guy who died in 1918, probably the most modern horror where it begins. In terms of if you read the guy's stuff, you don't feel like you're reading like a Victorian or even like a stylized, like decadent sort of uh, phantasmagoria, whatever you want to call it, right? This reads like something that would have been written later in the century. It's where, like the other stories, the horror and the science fiction sort of blur into each other. And this one, man, is a trip. The In terms of, it's funny, this copy here too, somebody underlined a lot of things in here. Right? And at the end, there's an interesting diagram that some unknown person who was the previous owner of this book has put there. But you probably heard the story. It's one of those stories where guys who are going fishing in Ireland, rural Ireland, where the people speak Gaelic, they find an old diary. And they read a diary account of a man living in a strange old house with his slightly mad sister and his dog. And weird things start to happen. Of course, you have a lot of strange where the guy sees like the universe, he sees the solar system, he sees time pass like in an instant. He feels himself almost like out of body, experiencing this vast and terrifying unknown universe and a world, a strange planet or something where these strange creatures live in these ancient ruined abandoned cities, and they try to essentially get into his house. Okay, his house obviously is some kind of gateway to other worlds. Now this is interesting. This came out in 1908. I always wonder if, I mean, in terms of if you read A Princess from Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs, which comes out in 1912, there's a lot of similarities in terms of that idea of like traveling in between worlds, where the idea of actually getting in a rocket or a ship and going to another place is sort of in the realm of like, like Jules Verne or even like some of the early Poe hoax, like the balloon hoax. The descriptions in this, it gets so trippy at some point, but at the same time, in terms of like let's say a survival horror situation where this guy essentially by himself is trying to keep these things, these intelligent swine creature things, from breaking into his house. It's like what's the term, white knuckle, like it's like holy crap, you get into it. You feel this guy desperately making sure everything's locked, trying to outsmart these things, shooting at them, trying to gauge, trying to get sleep, trying to deal with his sister, who is, he doesn't even want to tell her what's going on because she's already half out of her mind, and the dog helping him, but still his curiosity to go to this strange pit that is opened up on his property when these things start to occur, and it just, man, it goes on into just, man, cosmic horror, as Lovecraft had mentioned. A note of cosmic horror is definitely in this masterpiece. It also has like a kind of abrupt ending. You know how these things are gonna end, so to speak. What can one man do against this malevolent universe? Right? There's something pernicious behind this veil that makes a nightmare of our world. Right? And I guess I shouldn't make it too personal, but there's the scenes where he he apparently, when he was younger, he's a older man by himself. When he was younger, he had a love, right, who died very young. Right? Utterly bewildered, I stared almost unseeingly at the ring of green flames leaping above the dark edge. Even in the chaos of my thoughts, I wondered dully at their extraordinary shapes. A multitude of questions assailed me. I thought more of her. I had seen, I had so lately seen that of the sight before me. My grief and thoughts of the future filled me. Was I doomed to be separated from her always? Even in the old earth days, she had been mine only for a little while. Then she had left me, as I thought, forever. Since then, I had seen her, but these times upon the sea of sleep. And then something that's also fitting, I think. In some ways, I don't even want to mention that this is probably, if you think about the guy by himself trying to defend himself against intruders, being older, being essentially alone, helpless against the tide. I keep saying this is the future, right? Right. In the time that follows, a thought flashes through my brain. Why not leave this house, this country, this house of mystery and terror? Then, as though in answer, there sleeps up across my sight a vision of the wondrous sea of sleep. The sea of sleep where she and I have been allowed to meet after the years of separation and sorrow. And I know that I shall stay on here, whatever happens. So, and there's only one way this can really end, but I don't want to get all heavy. If you haven't read this, you should read it. Whoever hasn't read this, you should read it. And it's funny at the end here. Somebody left some kind of diagram. I don't know if it was the guy underlining it. Apparently, incest. So he's trying to. The pigment or the id, the superego, the conscious mind, Freud, and of course I wrote my little thing here. Are you fucking nuts, bro? Throw your Freud in the damn garbage. It was all crap to begin with, man. Are you crazy? This guy reading this got this out of the story. The pigment. Anyway, I'm sure somebody. I'm sure the person who put forth this idea. I'm sure they went to college, right? So they know what they're talking about. And in the end, of course, as all these weird tales and horror writers don't want to be, they were also poets, right? There's a poem at the end, and of course, it's also written in the journal style, which was a big thing in the late 1800s and the 20th century, writing it in the form of a journal, just like Dracula. So once again, recommended, man. This guy, man. What a tragic end for him, you know. But it doesn't make a difference. Like I said, his work, just like Lovecraft, just like all these guys who've left us in different ways, their work, their work lives on. This stuff's going to be around, I think, for a long time. And it's going to ring a lot more. It's going to be a lot more relevant in the future that's coming. So, later.